Okay. So I think this is episode 3, if I'm correct, of Tea and Tarot. So today we are talking about the Empress and the Emperor. I love that we are talking about them together because I do kind of see them as a couple, even though they're like very different energies.
Yeah.
As always, shall we start with the tea? What are you drinking?
I came prepared today. I am drinking, oh my gosh, actually, I don't know how to pronounce this. Marrakesh,
Ooh.
Marrakesh mint green tea, a refreshing blend of gunpowder green tea and spearmint. So yeah, mint and
Ooh.
green tea. I'm still learning my herbs. I know mint, we talked about this before, and spearmint are good for digestion. But you probably actually know a little bit more about this than me right now.
Mint, yeah, mint is really good for digestion, and I think that's all I got for mint.
Hey, can we work on getting sponsored by this place? The
Yeah,
Spice and Tea Exchange
I know. I
for
literally,
life.
is that the one you put on Instagram, the place?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh
want to
yeah,
go
our
there.
Instagram. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about it, because you're kind of like the master behind it. I'm just kind of following
The
lead.
master. No. Tea and Tarot. Find us at Tea and Tarot Podcast. And there's some underscores in between each of those words where we will be doing daily tarot readings, monthly, weekly. I mean, we can't promise full consistency. We're going to work towards it. But right now, we're kind of just letting our intuition guide us. We put a couple posts up there introducing ourselves. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. I'm so excited. New ventures.
Yeah, it'll be really exciting. I haven't really I posted some dailies a while ago, but I do want to put some more, maybe some oracles or something,
Oh, yeah.
to start posting a bit more. But yeah, we're really excited about that. So check it out. So let's talk about the tea I'm drinking. It has my favorite quote on this. The difference between a flower and a weed is judgment.
I love that. So
Right?
true. So
I
true.
love this saying. Every time I get this saying, I like love it because I align with it so much. And like every time I go for walks, I like I used to have the saying, if it's green, it stays.
Mm-hmm.
People will be like, no, it's a weed, it's ugly. And I get like really offended by that. I'm like, no, leave that fucking weed alone.
Well, they say dandelions are weeds, but I mean, hello, look at all the benefits they give to not only like nature, but to us too.
I know. And I just feel like it's natural. If it's natural, then it's I don't even know the word I'm looking for. If it's natural, then it stays, right?
Yeah.
Like we are so judgmental and with our perfect lawns and our perfect flowers, and it's just like I like to let it just go wild and like, yeah, I'm kind of
My
getting on
husband
a
would never
tangent.
allow that, but I have begged him for like just a space where I have like my wildflowers, my secret
Yeah.
garden. We're working on it.
Yeah. So, anyways, we went on a little tangent there. But the tea I'm drinking is raspberry leaf. And this is, I don't really have a reason for choosing this today. I just wanted to switch it up because it was in
Yeah.
my cupboard and I need to use it. But it's kind of like a tonic for women. It's really good for like the uterus, the uterine lining. It can like help prepare you for labor. Not that that is something I'm needing to prepare for, but it can help shorten labor. It can really help with menstrual cramps and just it's just like a tonic for the whole uterus, basically. And I
Fitting
think
for the Empress today. This
right.
feminine energy. Yes.
Yes, maybe that's why I felt drawn.
Mm-hmm.
And it can help with I think I said pregnancy, labor, like the early nausea and vomiting in their first trimester. Apparently, it can help
Yep.
with that as well. So it's a
Yep.
very like I want to say it's a very feminine drink. There are some
Yes.
interesting studies that say that it can like reduce interventions and complications with childbirth. I don't know.
Yep.
You probably have to
Yeah.
drink quite a bit, but yeah, it's just a very it's all girl power in this cup. So um, okay, so we'll get to the cards. So let's
Yes.
talk about the beautiful Empress first. Of course, I will put these on the screen for people who are watching this on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I use Gilded Tarot, and you what deck do you have in your hand?
Just traditional Rider-Waite.
Okay. Yeah, mine's Rider-Waite style too. So we'll show those on the screen, but yeah, talk about the Empress.
Yes. Okay. I feel like I need to revamp what I said in our first episode about how like numerology doesn't necessarily inform me so much in the majors. Because I feel like last episode too, I talked about the numbers, So apparently there is some kind of influence. So with threes, right? Self-expression, optimism, not a reckless nature necessarily, but like I'm almost getting like this Sagittarian energy with three,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
kind of like everything's going to work out. Don't worry. Right. At least that's how I see it, some freedom. And so with the Empress, you know, I feel like she definitely embodies some of that energy. Definitely mature, divine feminine. I think of like,
Mm-hmm.
definitely motherly, caregiver, nurturing, um, definitely in touch with our intuition, but like it's not like the high priestess. It's more like applied in this real world, you know,
Yep.
like
Very
action oriented.
tangible.
Yeah, very
Mm-hmm.
tangible, very tangible. She's definitely a creator though, giver of life. She can receive easily
Mm-hmm.
and give easily. So I'll pause because I love the Empress too. So
I love
what are
it.
your initial keywords here?
Yeah, you mentioned some of them. Like I love, I'll show the Empress on the screen, but like that's the gilded and she's just
Oh,
gorgeous.
beautiful. Yeah.
She just screams femininity to me. So the keywords that I put down for her, and again, I'm saying her, but not gender, right? Men
Mhm.
can stand in their feminine energy as well. So
Yeah.
divine feminine. And what I like about the Empress and what I always like to take note is she is all the queens wrapped into one. She
Yeah, there's
embodies
a
the
harmony there, a
Mhm.
balance.
She's like the ultimate woman, right? And we can talk about that when we start talking about like how she might show up in a spread. Growth, again, very maternal energy, mothering, nurturing, like you said. Healing,
Mhm.
so loving, but also self-love. I've seen this come up a lot when someone is healing themselves. Abundance. I think of her as like watering your own garden and watching it
Yeah.
grow. You mentioned creation. It's very sensual as well because she's an earth energy.
Mhm.
And threes typically are about expansion, right? So we get
Yeah. Yeah.
fertility, we get
Yes.
creativity. So whether it's a creative baby or a literal baby, she can literally represent a pregnant woman in a spread. Um, and yeah, she's the ultimate woman. And um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that comes up with the three.
There's also like this calm, relaxed energy. Like chaos can be happening and she sees it, acknowledges it, deals with it, but it doesn't rattle her. It's
Yeah,
just a
well,
very like calm presence.
it's funny you mentioned that too, because I believe that people associate this energy with very Taurus-like energy.
Okay,
That's
I can see
almost
that.
like stable, nurturing, sensual energy of Taurus. It could be wrong, but I don't know why I'm associating Taurus with that. Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but I think it's because she's an earth energy. And if
Hmm.
you just look at her, like she's very curvaceous in my image. I don't know what she looks like in yours, but very curvaceous, very like
Yes.
luscious, and
Mm,
she's got hips and breasts and curves, right? And this long flowy hair.
yeah.
She's just very comfortable in her body. So
Hmm.
that's where the
Yes.
sensuality comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I definitely see the Taurus energy for sure, but like, I don't know, maybe this is me just misunderstanding Taurus a little bit, but I feel like Taurus is really comfortable in the home, and I think she is, but I also think she's equally comfortable out in the world too. Like, no matter where she
Yeah.
is home.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, because that nurturing energy, right? She knows how to self soothe. She knows how to make other people feel loved. Um, but yeah, I love the Empress. So let's talk about, you know, I know we're different with readings. I can remember like literal readings, but like
Yeah.
like has she come up in a certain reading context for you? What has she meant? How do you utilize her energy?
Yeah. I think, especially in my healing journey, she's come up quite a bit, sometimes reversed.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, kind of indicates I need to uh there's sort of like an imbalance of energies of giving and receiving. So, you know, I'm a people pleaser. I'm working through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Always important to give to others before myself. And, you know, throughout that journey, challenging that, trying to balance that out more, Empress came up quite a bit for me. sort of reminding me that it's okay, and
Mhm.
not just okay, but necessary for this balanced self. Not, I'm also a Libra. I'm always striving for its balance,
Right. Yeah.
to give to yourself. And that's definitely needed and wanted. So that is probably the biggest thing that comes to mind for me, is like you talked about that already, that self-love.
Well, that's interesting. I've often seen, like, again, people who know me know I do a lot of love readings for clients, and she's often shown up when someone is healing, like after a
Mm.
breakup. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Like as an outcome, for example, I can remember a specific spread, of course, context and all the other cards and all that. But um, and I found that interesting because a lot of people might interpret that as, oh, this couple is having a baby, or they're, but you have to look at it in context of all the other cards. And she's
Yeah.
alone, right? She's not with anyone else. So it's come up for when someone is doing a lot of self-healing, self-love. It When it represents a person in particular, it's representing like if a man views a woman like this is like the total woman, right? Like he might see her as his future baby mama, right? He
I love
might
it.
just think she's the total package, like that she just exudes femininity. And if a woman sees a man like this, it's that she sees him as nurturing, as someone who would provide emotional nurturing more than anything, and love. So it doesn't have to be just for a female. um I've
Another
seen
thing that comes up too, sorry to interrupt, like
That's
with
okay.
the creative energy and like that more tangible earth, right? Practicality, like
Mm-hmm.
how do we create in real life, right? Like, so this will come up too if like I'm maybe thinking about a question around like career or starting something new, like what that looks like. Like now is the time, just make sure all your ducks are in a row, and like practically speaking, is there a plan? Are you prepared? Not so much as like the emperor energy, but I feel like there's an element to that as well for her. Like what
Oh,
are you
totally.
creating?
Totally. And because she's a major, um, this might take time to create,
Mhm.
right? This isn't going to happen overnight. That's the same. Like, I'm getting that analogy of like water your garden, right? What
Mhm.
happens if you
Yeah.
don't water your garden? I remember one year, I literally think of the Empress every time I think of this, because I wanted to plant some sunflower
Yeah.
seeds in Tennessee, and the weather there is not the greatest, and
Mhm.
the soil there is not really soil, and I just had a really hard time. But I honestly didn't tend to them the way they needed to be tended, and so some sprouted, some didn't, and I was not embodying the Empress because I just wasn't watering it, I wasn't nurturing it. um, and so she talks about the work and the effort and the tangible things that you need to do to get there. For example, in a career reading, for example, we could see this at the beginnings of a very creative venture. We could
Mhm.
see this when someone like has to nurture something in order for it to grow, whether that be their own business, whether that be, um, I mean, it could be any position in any job. If it were to represent an actual job, I would think it would be something in a maternal role, like nursing or something. I don't know,
Mhm.
a teacher even. There are
Okay.
some people that associate certain cards with certain jobs.
Yeah.
I don't actually do that, but I like to play around with it sometimes. Um, but I was going to mention something else about her. What? Oh, so she can come up as like motherly, but do you want to start maybe talking about some of the reversals? I know we view reversals a bit differently, but in reverse, I've seen her as maybe smothering in relationships sometimes. Like if it's like literally, I remember this coming up for a specific client, and just overly mothering their partner, and it can come off as smothering. It can come off, she can be the other woman sometimes. Like some people like to use the word homewrecker, but I don't really like to use that word. But,
Mhm.
um, and just like the opposite of when she's upright. So it can be toxic femininity, right?
Yeah.
Because upright, she's divine feminine. It can talk about like insecurity, right? Because upright,
Yep.
she's so secure. So in reverse, it can talk about insecurity, rejection, lack of growth, um, unrequited love, even. Something isn't growing. You're not
Yeah.
seeing fruition in something that you would like to see it in.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm trying to think in reversal. And it doesn't have to mean like negative. It could just mean that you still have a lot more work to put in.
Yeah. A lot of what you just said, all of that. And again, because it's a major, I feel like when this is reversed, you not nurturing yourself or in some way is really blocking growth. It's really blocking from manifestation. It's really blocking from creating and going forward in your journey. And that there's a lot of fears sort of dictating your behaviors, either be the toxic femininity, but yeah, fears and insecurities that really need to be worked through first before you can sort of harvest.
Well, and like I think of like the mommy complex, right? Like with that particular reading that I can think of, I encourage the client to look at, what need are you getting met by mothering this person? And she needed to be needed, right?
Yeah.
That's what a mother is, right? So we discussed that, and this person had this pattern of needing to be needed in these relationships. So it came up often. And usually the way around that is, like you said, like self-love, nurturing,
awareness too. I'm kind of going back to the garden analogy. Yeah, you need to water your gardens, but you also know when to step back and just let nature take its course too, right? And for every single plant, that's different. Some need more attention than others, right? More pruning versus just, hey, take a step back, water me once a week and leave me alone. Same with like the people in our lives, right? And having that awareness of not trying to dictate and control other people, kind of speaking more to that toxic femininity and recognizing other people's wants and needs. Like, yes, like she's a caregiver, right? But she's also balanced with self-love, but like that could look either way. Like maybe you're too controlling, or maybe you're not giving yourself enough, right? Like I just can see that swinging, depending on where she's at and, the other cards.
And I also feel like with her, a message that I've given some people when she's come up in their spreads is, again, depending on the context, but that you need to learn how to grow on your own before you can grow with another.
Yeah.
Right. So they're trying to grow this garden with someone else, but you can't do it. You're not even able to do that on your own. So we need to work on that first. And once you can grow your own garden, then you can flourish with another. I'm actually remembering this one spread. She was upright with the devil. And to me, that's a lot of sensuality, right? Because the devil isn't always bad, right? A lot of people look at it like, oh, it's bad. But to me, and what ended up happening was that person had a very sexy getaway with their partner. And so they were indulging in their senses, right?
Very nice. Yeah.
So that's another thing with Taurus that I think of the Empress. With Taurus is all about those five senses, right? And so she can be very indulgent. Now, if she was in reverse or something, I might think this was not healthy. This is maybe involved in a toxic, unhealthy relationship, or you're indulging for the wrong reasons, like you're trying to get a need met. But this was just sexy weekend away. So I thought I'd share that. That's what I meant for that person. What do you think the major lesson is? Like self-love, learning how to grow, like learning how to nurture something. Patience. Okay. Yeah. There's the Taurus energy. Taurus is very patient. What other, like, if this came up as someone's lesson, what would you say?
Knowing when to push forward and pull back, or just rest.
Okay. So
like being really aware of your internal experiences and emotions, and knowing like what makes sense for you and the context. So that's a very complicated lesson. There's a lot of nuances to that, right? But that's kind of what life is. It zigs and zags. It's never a straight line. And especially when life zigs and zags, some people tend to get stuck, or more neurotic, or more depressed, or whatever it might be, right? Like these really difficult emotions come up because we're just not really comfortable with being able to pivot always. So I think a lesson card might be learning how to get your needs met even when circumstances change. Because like I said, like for her, like there's a calmness about her, being a mom, I'm not a mom yet, but like from talking to my friends and, just what I see, like kids are unpredictable, wild, they're, all over the place. And, being a calm mother in those situations, she expects it to happen. and deals with it as it comes. It's not reactive. It's
Right. Very
a
much is
calm,
more receptive. Yeah.
yeah, very receptive, like, okay, I guess we're doing this today, you know. And so
Yeah.
just being able to sort of flow with the paths of life.
And that's where that feminine energy comes in, right? Feminine is more receptive. It's
Mhm.
not and she like yeah, when she's in reverse, I think of like needy more so, and upright, she knows how to get her needs met.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So learning
So
how to get your needs met, I think that's the simplest
yeah, learning how to get your needs
lesson.
met, self-love,
Hmm.
um, learning how to nurture something and let it grow.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, expansion, all that good stuff. So I guess that's the Empress. Is there anything else that we wanted to say about her?
We love her.
Interestingly, on my card, she has the zodiac ring around her. So a
Does
few
she? What does she have?
like she's got all those like that
Oh, she's
ring,
got all of them.
which
Okay.
is interesting again because we'll talk about the Emperor when we get to him, but my Fool card had that too. So there
Yeah.
must be some symbolism behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know. Maybe someone else can chime in on that if they have the same deck or
The Gilded Tarot definitely has a lot more astrology
yeah.
symbolism
And
in it.
maybe that's why I was drawn to it. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the Empress in a snippet. There's a planet in the background too. I think that's Venus.
Is it? That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yep. So very Venetian, is that how they say it,
Yes.
right? Like what is
Yeah.
Venus? She embodies like um, all you should know all the Libra traits, right? Balance and harmony and yeah, cool. I never actually noticed that. I need to look at my cards more. Okay, so Mr. Emperor. So we just did the divine feminine and now we're moving on to the divine masculine. So
Masculine.
tell me, talk to me, show me what your emperor looks like. I'll put it on the screen for other people, but what's he like in your Rider Waite? This is what he's like in the Gilded.
Interesting. He looks like a Greek philosopher in there.
Yeah, he does. And he's got the wheel. If you look, he's got all the zodiac signs, the symbols of them.
Wow.
She has
Mm-hmm.
the actual glyphs and he has like the crab or the goat or
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
A little bit more tangible, practical, easy to understand.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's kind of a duality to me in a way. So some
Yeah.
of the key words I wrote for him, obviously divine masculine. So he embodies all the kings, right?
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
is like the empire, right? He has his kingdom. He rules his kingdom. I wrote stability because he is number
Mm-hmm.
4. And when we
Yep.
think of 4, we think of, stability. Control, self-control. Upright, I think that this is a very this is about boundaries, right? This is a healthy level of control. I would say we can talk about reverse in a minute. He's a leader, right? He's a natural born leader. And the interesting thing, the duality for me with him is that he looks very like distant and almost cold, and he can be.
Actually, in this card, he's actually looking to the side, not directly. Like he's watching something.
Same. Like it's like he's distant. You can't reach him. But he actually is associated with Aries. He's very fiery. So he may
look at all that red, of course.
Right. So in your card, he has red. In mine, there's a little bit of red, but there's also blue. And I feel like that is the duality to him, is that he really has passion. He's got passion. Like if he comes up in a love reading, this man has passion, but he can contain it. He has this kind of cool, calm, collected reserve about him. And he's all about power, success. He's very goal oriented. And I think that's why he can maintain that passion, because he's got other things to do. He's got a kingdom to run.
Yeah. I like him. Freedom isn't free is sort of this saying that comes up in my mind. Like he wants there to be sort of this tangible expansion, but it has to be, maybe this is more of reversal energy, but calculated. Like there has to be plans, steps, and just outlines sort of thing. And we have to keep an eye on these. I'm also getting some Virgo energy, and maybe that's just my husband talking. I don't know. But just everything, we can't just jump into this here, right? Like, I want you to have all these expansive things in the real world, but this is a process. We need to sort of break this down and make sure everything's running smoothly before we go to the next step.
Yep. Yeah. And it's funny because for readings, he's come up when someone's being cold and distant, or when someone, like he can be like the father, right? Just like the Empress can be the mother. He's very fatherly, divine masculine. And when he's upright, he's in control and he's balanced. When he's in reverse, I know we read differently, but he can be a control freak when he's in reverse.
I totally see that.
Like out of control.
Way too rigid.
Right. Rigidity is a good word. So he can be really rigid, but I've also seen it where this person's just out of control. Again, we have to look at the other cards. So there can be power struggles with this person. He can abuse his power. And he can also be very immature because upright, he exudes maturity.
Right. Wisdom, calmness, clarity. Yeah.
And think about the 4, right? 4 upright is very stable. In reverse, there's no stability. Right?
No stability. Kind of a thing too. I wrote a note here. So assertiveness, recognizing personal power, taking up space, acknowledging the wisdom required to make logical decisions for the greater good, not just yourself. Cooperation was sort of like these things that kept coming up for me. And so like, he's a good guy, right? But like, you're not messing with him. Okay. Like, he's doing this not for himself, for like the greater good of everyone. And like, when this is reversed, it feels very selfish. Like you were saying, like this power grab, like everything is for me. It's not as manipulative as maybe like the magician, like we talked about before, but there's definitely some narcissism tendencies.
I think I think kings, queen, I think all the court cards and the emperor, empress, and the emperor reverse can be narcissism to some extent, depending on what else is showing up around them. Because the energy turns inward, right? Yeah, like you said, all about me, very selfish. So I've seen him come up, and like when I think of him, I associate him with like the 10th house in astrology, right? The top of the natal chart, like out in the like public. And it doesn't mean that he's always his own boss, but usually this is a position of power in some way. He can represent it for jobs, people in the military because of that Aries Martian energy, police officers, people who are in some, like they have some sense of authority. That's another word that we can use to associate with him, authority. And he exudes it, right? Like he can intimidate people with that authority.
Establishment too is something that's coming, like something established, structured.
Yes,
I'll go back to the colors that you were talking about. So I have this awesome book here. It was $8. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, I love it. Is that from like a used bookstore?
I think I got it from Barnes and Nobles.
What's it called?
How to Read Tarot, Practical Guide by.
I'll put it on the screen.
Yeah, who is this by? I should probably Fall River Press. It doesn't actually say who's it by, so I don't know.
We'll find out and we'll put it on the screen.
But it's really interesting, and not all tarot books talk about the colors so much and like sort of the symbolism behind them. And I just realized on the traditional Rider-Waite, there is also that blue there too.
Ooh, there is.
Yeah, like not as much, but it's definitely peeking out underneath his robe. So red, passion, vitality, courage. Yep, we know that. Royal blue. That's the color on mine. I think is that yours?
Yep, a lot of royal blue.
Loyalty, insight, inspiration, independence. And all of those things, right? Interesting though with like the duality. So like there's sort of like this, I'm getting still that earth energy, like this, you might see some stubborn Tauruses every now and then, and like, but once you kind of dig past that like harder outer layer, there's so much softness. There's so much good about them.
Well, and I think with him, he feels like he's got duty and responsibility. And I think that can kind of take away from him in a bit. Like he's got too much to maintain. So he has to have this air of authority, because if he doesn't, his kingdom will fall apart.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. So what
he
does that
also
look like
has,
for real people, like in readings, like you said, like where would this come up for you?
yeah, also definitely. I wanted to say really quickly, he's
Oh,
on
sorry.
this. Okay, on mine, he's got like the sun on his cloak. He's got a bunch of suns. And I
Oh,
think that
okay. Yeah.
that's indicative of the passion, right? The fire.
Mhm.
He's very passionate and fiery, although you might not know it right away, right?
Yeah.
So in my readings, like I said, he's shown up when a partner's quite distant. Again, it would have to have clarifiers. Like I remember the Emperor with the star was, this person just felt kind of out of touch, like very cold
Yeah.
and distant. And they can be like that for various reasons. Maybe they have some distractions, or maybe they're just generally like emotionally unavailable. Like again, I would have to look at the reading to determine that, but just distant and kind of cold. And that's how the client was sensing, like, I can't really figure this person out.
Yeah.
He's come up in reverse for someone who was quite narcissistic and kind of out of control. And this person kind of went back and forth. He could be very rigid, but then when you actually looked underneath it all, his life was just out of control. And I think that's where the rigidity came in. It's like everything's out of control. I need to control something, so it's going to be my partner.
Yeah, like this immature aggression that's really just stemming from insecurity and fear.
Totally. And with like the King of Swords in reverse, I could see like verbal abuse with something like that. Someone who was very like harsh. I'm trying to think when else he's come up. He's come up when someone's moving up in their job. So even if they're not like top of the ladder, they're moving up to a higher position where they have more authority. So whatever more authority means in that context. He's come up for like entrepreneurs, right? Similarly to like the King of Wands or the Queen of Wands, right? We see those as kind of entrepreneur energies. He's come up when someone there's boundary issues. So where you need to assert more boundaries, in reverse, where you might not have any, or you might be overstepping boundaries. He's shown up when, I'm just trying to think. To me, I also, this talks about how we each associate with our deck differently. To me, I associate him with Saturn, and I have no idea why, because he's a fiery energy. He's literally come up in readings for an Aries male for me early in my reading days. And I remember that because I felt really proud that I was able to predict that, but with an Aries male. But he doesn't really remind me of a Capricorn, but there's something Saturnian about him. And I think that's because of the boundaries and that kind of coldness. And so sometimes for me, the way I've connected with him and my relationship with him is he can talk about a lesson just in general, like a lesson, a difficult lesson that you're learning. Yeah. You got anything to add on that?
I can see some of the Saturn energy, but Saturn is like just so cold and distant for me. Like, and there's more earthiness here. There's more like stability, tangible, like movement. Like Saturn just, I don't know, maybe it's because that's just like my first impression of Saturn is sort of this hard reminder of lessons to be learned. Like there's not a lot of softness with Saturn.
But Saturn is like the father, right? Saturn is stable. And he reminds me of the Emperor in the sense that the Emperor is like the father, right? And so is Saturn. And sometimes you have like the Emperor is very disciplined, right? And that's what Saturn does. Saturn will force us to be disciplined in an area. And so will the Emperor. So I guess that's where I associate him with.
I totally see that. Yeah. I just feel like you'd have to be paired with someone else. Right. Someone else as well. Because there's like layers to him. And I feel like him being a major arcana, no matter where it comes up in the rating. And I mean, I don't know if we need to say this every time, but like maybe if you're a listener, just kind of, listening to this, I guess, the majors really represent for me, and I think you too, like these big sort of life lessons, like higher ideals or understanding. It's not just day to day. No, this is something that we really need to consider. And we either need to shed, if this is coming up reversal, some things we need to shed and work through or work on, or traits of ourselves that we need to amplify to move forward. Right.
Yeah, I think for lessons, again, context, where we're going to say that word till it, we run blue in the face. But a lesson for me with the emperor, like for example, in love would be
Love, yeah.
like structure, discipline, boundaries.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
It's
think
not
of
a very sexy card
no.
for
And
love.
speaking of sex, now in the bedroom, we can talk about that. There is sexual connections with all the cards, and some readers will be able to tell you like what kind of he would want to call the shots. The emperor, he
I'm okay with that.
yeah, he would like to be on. He would like to be on top. Say that. He would like to dominate. We'll use that word. So I think as a lesson, like to me, it's hard to like conceptualize him in detail about a specific lesson because to me in general, he is a lesson. Just he's saying that this is a lesson that you have to go through, and then other cards kind of specify what that lesson is. But it might be about your own power and control issues. How do you exert power and control and boundaries? And like, do you have stability in your life? Where does there need to be more structure? Are you too rigid? Do you need to loosen up a bit? So these are kind of some questions that I might ask someone if this came up in terms of like a lesson.
Oh yeah, like how might you identify with the emperor, right? Another thing I just noticed too, I don't know why it's been looking at me this entire time. His chair he's sitting on, his throne is made of stone. There are mountains behind him, right? Like so, like mountains don't move, right?
Right.
Stone can't be molded,
And
right?
stone is cold and hard. Yeah. But you can't move it. Yeah.
You can't move it. So like just very like a moral conviction, maybe.
That's super interesting. Yeah, mine, he's not sitting on a throne. He looks very serious and stoic.
Wait, I'm pretty sure this is Taurus. What is the Taurus and Ox? Wait, this is a Ram. This is a Ram on here.
So that's Aries, right? Yeah. So he's associated with Aries, which is interesting. That's where I get the hot and cold because Aries is not cold. Aries only is hot. Like really. But he's got this coldness to him, and he has shown up as a very emotionally detached person because he's so focused on building this empire, right? Where the divine feminine, the Empress, she can she's like very much in her body and the physical, whereas he's just all about building and status and power. So he can kind of be detached in relationships if he's too focused on that, which
I don't super resonate with this card. Like if it comes up for a spread with me, I'm like, there's pushback.
There's always those cards that you're like, oh crap, you again. Like I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with you.
Like I love the cards like Death, Tower. I love these. The Devil, even I don't have a problem with that one. Like, okay, let's get deep here. But like this guy, I'm like, ugh, too pragmatic. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. Maybe that's like our Sag moon, that we're like, we can't relate to you, buddy.
I don't know what you're about.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like, I actually can associate the Empress more with readings than the Emperor. Like I'm trying to think of when he's shown up and what he's meant, but I think I hate to say it, he's kind of boring. So I was like, I kind of think he's a little sorry, Emperor. Like,
sorry, bud.
I kind of
you, but
I don't know. Like when I look at the Empress, I just think of like, I just get excited when I look at the Empress, and then when I look at the Emperor, I'm kind of like, oh, you.
Yeah, we got to do this now. All right.
Because he's so serious, right?
Yeah, I see the Saturn even more now. Yeah.
So
I feel like I just want him to like be a little playful, but there's not really any playfulness in him.
No, I don't see any playfulness in him. I think he'll be a great provider.
Yeah.
He will help you if you need help. He will support you. You will be secure. So yeah, being married to him, I can see it as like that trophy wife almost, who has everything, but like she just needs like some love and nurturing, and this Emperor is just kind of building his castle and is focused on status. And maybe maybe I'm not giving him enough credit, but whereas the Empress as a mother, I think she would be an amazing mother. But the funny thing is, okay, so we've talked about divine feminine, the Empress, we've talked about divine masculine, and I saw an interesting thread on that platform I used to follow about what would these two be like as a couple?
Yeah.
Because they're so different. Like, would they balance each other, or would they like? And the thread was interesting. Some people said absolutely not. Like, they're too different, because they exude the opposite energies from each other. I mean, they're both stable in their own way, but and then other people were like, no, I think they balance each other.
I think communication is going to be really important, and some kind of compromise. I think they have all the tools and skills they need, right? They represent all the qualities of the court, the king and queens, all the elements, I should say. I feel like they'll present as a very unified couple.
Like power couple.
Yeah, but like behind closed doors, there's probably more going on. And not to get too weird and personal, but actually when I've done readings for myself and my husband, we've gotten Empress and Emperor.
Okay,
which makes sense.
So like the provider. Yeah. So like the provider and like the nurturer or the creative, right? And so they have almost different values and different visions. But I will say about the Emperor and the Empress, I feel like they're a match in the sense that she embodies all the queens, he embodies all the kings. Yeah. Like, he would just dominate and control someone else. Like, I don't think he can with the Empress. I think that
no,
right?
No.
So I think she's good for him in that sense, that she'll keep him in check.
Yep, agreed. I totally agree with that one.
And maybe because of the sensuality she exudes, that she'll be able to bring out
the playfulness.
Yeah. Or they'll just have some pretty interesting sex. I don't know, because he would want to dominate. But I don't know. I think she'd be okay with that. I think she'd be okay with that. Yeah. Right? Because she's a total woman. She's just like, desire me, ravish me. And he's like, all right. I don't know why this is taking this turn, but
I know. I'm like, That's funny.
Maybe it's like the Venus, the what is it? The Venus Pluto. I think Venus and Pluto are about to conjunct again. I think we were talking about that earlier.
Well, so she's Venus, he's Aries. Those are opposites.
Well, he's Mars, right? Venus and Mars are the lovers, right?
Right. Yeah.
So Mars is like that masculine fighter energy, and Venus is the lover, sensual. So I mean, they can make fire together. These people.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that when it's good, it's amazing. And I think if it was bad, watch out.
Because there's some reversals in there.
Right? If you flip them both in reverse, ooh, that's like drama. Because he would try to control her, or she would try to mother him, and we get codependent enmeshment. So it could get pretty messy with these two.
Anxious attachment and avoidant attachment, like personalities.
Totally.
Could see that.
Or two narcissists, right? Oh my God. Yeah. Two narcissists.
Well, I see like maybe a narcissism with the reverse Emperor, and then maybe like, you know what? I'm going to take a step back because I don't want to demonize personality disorders.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll just say this: narcissistic tendencies and maybe some codependency.
Right.
Personality.
Well, traits. They attract each other anyway, right?
Like, right. Yeah. So I could see that being something to explore.
Yeah. It was just interesting. I wish I could remember that conversation more with how these two are as a couple, because as much as, because when we get into the court card, we'll talk about that, right? Like if we see like a king of queens, a queen of wands with a king of wands in the same spread, that's a match, right?
Yeah.
They are a match. These two people will, and again, when it's hot, and if it's not, it's not. And so the way I'm looking at these two is they should be a match. But I think when two people meet each other energetically, it can go either way, right? It can be fireworks, or it can be like the house is on fire, like literally. But yeah, so yeah, good conversation. Is there anything else that we maybe? I can't believe I just realized that. Yeah, he doesn't have Mars in the background, but he's Aries, right? Mars rules Aries, and she's Venus. So yeah,
I just see more Mars than Saturn. I see lessons of Saturn, But like again, Mars too, like we got some action.
Oh my God.
Like,
And I'm so silly. Look what,
what?
to jump back to, look what she's holding. She's holding the Venus symbol.
Oh, it's on
Like,
my card too. There was a Venus on there. Yeah,
yeah.
that's funny.
So really cool. I don't see any Mars.
I love our combos. I always like see more and more in the cards than I necessarily would otherwise.
I know. Yeah. So I think that's all I have to say about them. We talked about reversals. We talked about upright.
We talked about their numerology significance.
And if I saw them both in a spread, I might start to address like the masculine energies, the feminine energies, because they can be your energy or they can literally be people, right? So I'd want to figure out, is this a person in your life? And how are you experiencing this person's energy? Is it rigid and controlling? Is it intimidation because of their authority? I'd want to know who that was. Okay, so I guess that kind of finishes our conversation on the Empress and Emperor. So I'm going to stop our recording now, unless you have anything else to say before I stop the recording.
No.
All righty. Well, that was it for episode 3.